the NF Audio RA15. Let's talk about it. Now, this is a double cavity dynamic driver from NF Audio. Now, NF Audio, I've seen a lot of products on their channel that I've recently reviewed. This particular unit was sent out to me by Hifigo. I wanted to thank them for the opportunity to review this. And I always want to be grateful to anyone who sends me to IEMs, but I also wanted to be clear who sent this to me before we started the review. Let's start by talking about the build quality. The build quality on this is extremely strong. It's a small IEM. Reminds me a lot of the Aria shell without the chipped paint or anything like that. It is a QDC style connector and it is a very small shell. I do not see anyone having a problem with fit. The nozzle is small. It has a nice filter, a nice lip, so you can put on ear tips on this really easily. It does not have a lip, and again, it is a smaller shell, but it's a comfortable shell, and I have really no fault with it. As you know, the QDC style IEM is nice. You can use it with almost any 2-pin cable as well. So overall, really great shell design, really clean and well-built IEM. The case is nothing too exciting. It comes with a nice selection of tips, but nothing too exciting, but it is adequate at this price and no problems. The cable itself it kind of tangles a little bit, but it does have a nice chin slider. It does have an NF Audio little Y splitter, which I like. It has a nice little NF Audio little label at the end and a little, like a little wrap if you want it. All around, it's a nice cable. I don't know, nothing too fancy, but I'm not too much of a cable snob, but this is just kind of an okay cable, but it is 3.5. So, as we talk about the build quality of this IEM and the overall sound, this is a bright leaning IEM with 2 different nozzles to it. It's an overall fine IEM. It's one of those IEMs that I think is an okay IEM, but not something that really fits what I want out of an IEM. So we're gonna talk about it. But it is a very bright leaning signature, and it does have different nozzles for people to try and experiment with. All right, let's start by looking at the graphs and the 2 different nozzle selections we have. The silver is a little bit more lean. You'll notice in the base right here, it is slightly more lean. It does have a little bit more 3K and 5K energy. I do like the gold much more than the silver. I think the gold's it's just okay. It's not really something I absolutely love, but I also don't hate it. The gold to me is by far the better set. So for most cases here in our comparison section, we're going to focus more on the gold rather than the silver. I like to talk about all other IEMs that I've reviewed from a brand just to kind of get an idea of a house sound, and then we'll talk about some alternatives that you might think about at this price point and some things to think about as well. One thing to think about, one IEM that got sent to me is the NF RA05. I did not like the RA5. It just didn't have much of a bass shelf. It's like lower mids were a little bit too scooped out for me. It was really small and it didn't have a tonality. It might have something to do with a driver. Like, we get a lot of information from a graph, but it doesn't always lead us to everything that we need. And the NF RA15 is a pretty good set. The NF RA05 gets like no recommendation for me for the style of IEM user that I personally am. Let's look at a few others. This also came from them. The NF NA02 Plus came in the package of 3 that I got from NF Audio directly. And I wanted to show this versus the NF RA15. Now, part of me likes the NF RA15 better, has a little bit better response, but I do think the technical response and the stuff off the graph, the overall sound quality of the NF NA2 Plus is a little bit better. I don't think it's like 10,000 times better, but it is better. And so if you really want to go for an NF Audio IEM, I would probably price no consideration. I would recommend the NA2 Plus It has a nicer cable, it has a nicer case, a little bit more better. It has a little bit better tip selection, a little bit more choices. It's a little bit more it's packaged just a little bit better. And so if you're not super concerned about money and you're like, wow, I just, I like this brand, I like that look, I personally would go with that NF NA2 Plus, but the RA15, it's still a decent IEM. Another one that came right about this time with the package with the other two IEMs, the package of 3 IEMs I got was the RG15X Assassin's Creed Mirage, and I'll be dropping that review this weekend, so here pretty soon. What I want you to show you, I am showing you the silver here. Let's go ahead and get rid of the gold just so we can look at just the silver. But if you look at the silver versus the Assassin's Creed Mirage IEM, you'll notice that that silver just gives you a little bit better tonality. Like if you're gonna go with the gold, I think the gold is probably the better one for me and for what I would like. But I think there's something to be said about the NF-RG15X Assassin's Creed. I think for like a little bit cheaper, I think you get a little bit better sound quality and something that I personally would recommend in this market rather than the NF RA15. And I think that's easy to recommend other products from other brands. It's okay to have an IEM that you like and one that you don't. And I think that's a fair comparison to be made. I'm going to make a few other comparisons here. So, stuff that, I think the $89 market's pretty competitive. Like I saw the Magic 1 on sale recently for around that price. And so when we're talking about IEMs at that price, there's a lot of selection. There's a lot of IEMs coming out. And that's a heated market because it's kind of like that normie level where people will try it, or people will just, oh yeah, whatever, it's $100. And they don't really have a problem just dropping that on an IEM. It's not a big deal to them. One IEM that I do like, is the Hexa, the Truth Air Hexa. Now I would say that the NFRA15 is packaged better. It probably has a nicer, more comfortable shell. Again, I don't like the Truth Air Hexa shell, but I like the IEM sound. I think it has nice sparkle, nice air, kind of forward vocals. I like that 3K spike you'll see right here, and I like a dip of energy from 3 to 5K. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean the NF-RA15 is bad, but it's just not really my favorite IEM at this price point, and I think there's better options to be had. Another one to recommend is the CCA Trio. Now, I got some guy was going off the other day in my comment section about how I talked about CCA. Now, look, CCA KZ, some people have problems with that. That's not what I do on here on channel. I'll be hyper clear about that. I'm going to recommend the best products I can for people that need that budget, that don't really care about build quality, that just want a good IEM for cheap. Because there is a full-blown market for IEMs that you just want to have a cheap IEM to take to work, that you can leave there, that you can take it with you around, that you can just kind of leave on your desk and don't have to baby and worry about. And everybody has their price of IEMs that they don't worry about. Maybe for some it might be $5, for some others it might be $100. If you're just looking for a cheap banger set, the CCA Trio might be a good selection. But again, the NF RA15, if you have the Dosh and the money's not a problem, it might be a good banger set because the build quality on it's fully metal, nice little build quality on it, nice analytical set. But again, for my library and what I like to listen to for music and for music alone, I kind of would go with the Trio instead because it's $30 and it's super cheap and it's just super solid for its price. Another one to think about. I mean, the difference between 89 versus a little bit more. I actually saw this. This is the CKL VX 1DD plus 4BA, which is basically the same thing as the Pula. I've seen both of these on the used market for right around $90, and I think that's important to remember. Sometimes, rather than buying new, if you're willing to go used, you might be able to get a little different category, a different style and presentation of IEMs. And I think that is a better IEM and something to kind of consider at this price point. Just something to think about. Another IEM that I like at this price point that fits my target really good, has like nice bass, and it's just kind of a warm, fun little set, is the Moondrop May. The treble and extension on the RA15 is better. It does have a nice sound. It is listenable, but as far as like having that tonality and that graph of what I want, it's not really quite there, despite it not being a bad set. Again, I have certain sensitivities. Like for me, if the bass shelf is not right, certain instruments like guitar strings don't sound right on the RA15. Like it feels too delicate in my ear. Also, this area right here, it's a little bit piercing for me for extended periods of use. Like I'll sometimes wear IEMs for, I don't know, 7-8 hours. Like I'll even just unplug and run around my house to do chores, and then listen to the stuff on my DAP. So sometimes like a set won't leave my ears for almost a whole day. And so for me, IEMs have to not be fatiguing, and that zone for me, it just feels kind of hissy and a little bit off. And that's just kind of something to know about how I am, just so you can understand why I'm why I feel the way about this IEM that I do. All right, let's rank this one up. The RA15 is actually a gold for me. Like when I was ranking the silver, it was kind of somewhere around here. It was kind of a D class where like I wouldn't really like it, but you know, the gold's not bad. It's actually kind of enjoyable. Like it's not my favorite set, but it's not one of those sets that I fully wouldn't recommend at all. I kind of debated giving it 1 star or not, but I do think there are other IEMs out there from NF Audio. I personally would recommend the NF RG15, and I'll probably give that 1 star if it's ever like released in the US for people. I mean, hell, we'll just do that right now because that shows you how little I care. And I do think that IEM is a better call, and is something to consider if you're looking at something from the brand. It's a cheap IEM with a really unique packaging. I really like the shell on it. I mean, the only problem about that one is that, again, it has a USB-C cable. Again, I did do a review of that if you guys want to check that IEM out. These two do trade blows, and for a little bit cheaper, the RGX Assassin's Creed might be the better way to go, and something I would recommend at this price point or slightly cheaper. You know, audio is a funny thing. You really got to know what you're looking for in a product, if it's build quality, sonic quality, or what. For me, it's a little bit of both. I want a good package. This has a good package, but it has an analytical tuning, but it's not necessarily terrible. I like the gold nozzles. It has kind of a nice little warmth to it, and it's a little bit more tolerable, but its bass note weight doesn't really feel right to me. And it's not something that I personally absolutely love. And that's kind of what a C is for me. Like the C IEMs that I have at that C grade are just stuff that, you know, I probably wouldn't pick up again, that I don't think are super competitive at the price. But again, it's not necessarily a bad set, just not something that I personally really love and enjoy. Thanks for watching. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and I'd be happy to get them to you when I can. Hope you guys have a lovely day, and go and check out my other NF Audio reviews. And if you guys have any more questions or need any comparisons about these 4 IEMs, let me know. I'd be happy to answer them for you guys. Thank you so much.
You're still here. It's over. Go home. Go watch another IEM video. It's done. That's the entire video. What more do you want?